Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
Welcome to episode 96 of On the Move with Mac Worley. I, of course, am Mac Worley. Thank you for joining us for another one of our episodes. This is the show that attempts to inspire you to stand up for your rights. So sit back, relax. We have a lot of stuff that we're going to be trying to cover today. Our featured topics are going to be, firstly, with the recent uptick in terrorist activity, perhaps we should stay home this Black Friday. What do you guys think? I personally have to go out. I'll be traveling on the highway, but I'm not going to be going to any heavy populated areas. I personally am going to be playing it safe. Anyway, so the rest of the stuff we got to get to today, it seems like this administration wants us to get attacked. I'm going to tell you why. I think that this is concerning. I mean, it seems like we're going against common sense, and that's just not a good strategy. In addition to that, Obama is doubling down on the Syrian refugee situation. He's released Gitmo detainees, and he's trying to pressure the international community and as well use American taxpayers' money, our dollars, to fund refugees in other countries. Okay. In addition to all of that, Russia is trying to woo France. We have a conversation that we need to have about internet sales tax. The left and states alike are all trying to regulate the internet. They want to get their grubby little fingers on the internet too. And we're going to have that conversation as well, in particular relating to sales tax. And also, I have a few articles I want to read regarding Obamacare and how I believe it is beginning to collapse under its own weight. We got a whole lot more to talk about. So you guys don't want to go anywhere. You want to stick around for this episode. And also, please, if you would like to give us a call, the number to the show is 360-450-5625. Again, that number is 360-450-5625. Join the conversation. You can message us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow or on Twitter @OnTheMoveShow. We're happy to read your comments live on the air. Join our conversation. We broadcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, that's every Sunday at our website, OnTheMoveShow.com. That's our hub for everything. Or you can check out the podcast on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can like us on Facebook, by the way, Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow. And anyway, so we're going to go ahead, and I just want to get right into this here. I have a U.S. Congresswoman. She is talking on, I believe this is CNN, if I'm not mistaken. They're talking about CIA intelligence and how right now we are involved, and we've laid out the situation from the past few episodes. We've been talking specifically about what is going on in Syria. And just to recap, we have Syria, who was originally governed by Assad. All right, he's not a very good guy. He's a dictator. I mean, he's probably not the worst person in the world, but he's definitely not a good guy. Okay, he's a dictator. All right, he's probably somewhere along the lines of like Saddam Hussein, as Bush used to say. Saddam. He's killing his own people. Not a very good guy. All right, maybe not Hitler. But maybe just because he doesn't have the ability to be Hitler. All right, so, I guess that didn't really work out for Hitler in the end. So, point being, not a good guy. All right, but Assad is backed up by Putin, who's also not a very good guy. You got to remember, this guy's, he may seem level-headed if you look at his interviews and you hear what he's saying and things like that. And again, he's looking out for the interest of Russia, and Russia's interests, they think, are to put the old Soviet band back together, gain influence over strategic resources around the world, and be able to strong-arm people when they're in the position to do that, and in other times, not even have to do that. Putin is a smart guy. He may seem like he's level-headed, but he's not a good guy, all right? He's a bad guy. Or at least a guy whose interests conflict with that of ours, of the United States. So his interests are counterproductive to our interests. I think that is the most nice way to refer to that. Okay, so Putin, not a very good guy, backing another not very good guy in Syria. But the reason why he's backing him and one of the main reasons why he's in there now is because we, as the United States, are involved in a coup. Essentially is what we're doing. We're trying to overthrow the government of Syria by arming the U.S. backed rebels. Okay, now I'm using air quotes here because U.S. backed rebels very likely are the same people that were fighting in Afghanistan. So we're arming people that were fighting in Afghanistan in order to overthrow a government in Syria. And it was supposed to be about stability in this region, but all this is doing is destabilizing the region. And then we have a third party that propped up in this situation, which, by the way, we created. Just an FYI, we created ISIS. We funded them. We left them our vehicles and our armored vehicles, all of our transportation, those big vehicles, armored personnel carriers and weapons, ammunition, all that stuff that we left behind when we left and abandoned Iraq. And then when the Iraqis just left out of there when they realized that ISIS was coming, they just, oh crap, they threw down their guns and left. And it's only been dropped once. That's the old joke about guns, right? Here's a AK-47, only been dropped once. The thing about this is that in addition to all of that, we armed ISIS through gun running in Benghazi. This is out now. We did it. We were secretly arming ISIS in Benghazi. Yeah, so anyway, we fund and create ISIS, and it destabilizes the region. In addition, we're working to destabilize the Assad regime by arming the very people we're fighting in Afghanistan. And Russia is trying to get into the Middle East. We're creating this whole dangerous situation in the first place. This is the whole reason why it's collapsed. It was under the control of brutal dictators. But under the control of brutal dictators is better, I would argue, and I think many would argue, for stability purposes, than having jihadist terrorists running amok, as we are seeing now. And now they're trying to project their power outwards, as we're seeing with all of these terrorist attacks around the world that are happening now. It's all coalescing right now. So, with that said, I want to play a clip here for you guys, so you can hear it. I've been on this little trip here where I'm checking out the CIA intelligence about everything I can get my hands on about what the CIA is saying regarding Syria, regarding the Middle East, regarding terrorism, anything that I can find. And I found this to be one of the most relevant videos. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and play the clip for you guys so you can hear it yourself.
Well, let's talk about this deal, this agreement that was worked out today between the United States and Russia to avoid some accidental head-on collision between fighter jets over Syria. The secrecy of this deal, they're not making it public. Does that concern you?
It doesn't. I think that the Pentagon knows and understands how important it is to make sure that our troops are not put into harm's way and that we're not put into a situation where you have this.
By the way, this is U.S. Representative Tulsi Gabbard. She's in the Armed Services Committee.
Accidental military conflict with Russia in the air. So I think making this deal with Russia to deconflict that is an important thing. But there's a bigger issue here that I'm concerned with, and that is the fact that the U.S. and the CIA are working to overthrow the Syrian government of Assad, while Russia, a longtime ally of Assad for decades now, is working to defend or uphold this Syrian government of Assad. And this puts us in a position of a possible direct head-to-head conflict with Russia as long as the U.S. and CIA continue down this path.
Well, how do you
Okay, so that is the first part that we have to mention here. So this whole situation, we talk about stability in the Middle East. And again, we're there. We talked about this last week. We're there because of the oil. The only reason why we care about what is going on in Syria, what's going on in the Middle East, toppling dictators over there. And by the way, the only reason why there are dictators over there is because there's oil. If there was no oil over there, we wouldn't care. Those people would not have anything to fight over. I mean, they would still fight over their religion, but they wouldn't have resources to fight over. So it's pretty much just desert over there. There's not a whole lot going on. So regardless, we are now in a situation where we've destabilized the Middle East. We didn't make it any safer. We didn't make the world any safer. Our efforts to destabilize Syria and the greater Middle East, we're talking about Libya, Egypt, everywhere that was affected by the Arab Spring that we encouraged when our president was speaking out on their behalf. And oddly enough, he didn't speak up when it was time for the Arab uprising in Iran. The people were in the streets and trying to overthrow their oppressors, but Obama said nothing. And it went away because there was no support. You think if Obama would have said something when the Iranian people were rising up, do you think that it would have maybe got a little momentum? The most influential man in the world, arguably the President of the United States, backs a movement that is going on in another country. Do you think that it's going to get a little bit more support? Do you think that it's going to gain a little bit more steam? We saw that that's what happened in Egypt immediately after he said, hey, he's all for these young people in the streets, trying to overthrow their dictator. All right? It just so happened that this was a U.S.-backed puppet, by the way. So the fact that he says that they should overthrow him, and it actually goes directly against our interests. He's actively working to thwart our interests. He's destabilizing the Middle East. He's putting us in a situation where we're going to go head-to-head against Russia in a proxy war. And anything can happen in this scenario. Again, there are 3 different groups fighting for power over there. You've got the U.S.-backed rebels, which aren't, again, they're not on our side. They are terrorists. We're fighting them over in Afghanistan. So we got that. We got our planes that could potentially be in the air. We could talk about, by the way, if you hear a presidential candidate, if they're talking about creating a no-fly zone, this is something that I've been mulling over. And basically what you're saying is if you want to create a no-fly zone, that if Russia crosses this no-fly zone, granted, you establish it, you draw some red lines, okay? If Russia crosses this red line, you shoot them down, all right? Now, I understand the importance of following through with your red lines, but my question, guys, gang, do you want to fight Russia over Syria? I don't. We don't care about what's going on there. We don't. We honestly don't. I mean, you can say from a humanitarian perspective, but the point is, we didn't care when they were killing with conventional weapons. Suddenly, we cared when they started killing with chemical weapons, and now we're arguing over how they kill their people. If it was okay with just guns and bullets, what's it matter with chemical weapons? What does it matter if this is all about optics? This is really what it is. This is Obama's red line. So you draw some more red lines out here with the no-fly zone. I understand people saying, okay, we want to have a safe zone, an area like that. I get that. I understand the need for that. But why are we doing that? Let Russia do it. Let the Syrian people do it. Let Assad do it. That's none of our business. And we need to come back and create our own energy. We're sitting on a ton of oil. We got natural gas out the wazoo. If we can get these environmental statists out of the way, get the lawyers out of the way, maybe we can actually become energy independent and we won't need to be in the Middle East. But everything right now is spooling up towards a new Cold War kind of tactics. If you look at what's going on in the media is spinning this out to be like we are in a Cold War again. This is Cold War 2.0 if you're watching the media. But Obama's trying to tell us, everything's cool with us and Russia. And that's another thing that bothers me, by the way. And I don't know if this bothers you, but we go into to this whole situation. We destabilize the Middle East. We act actively against our interests. We arm up ISIS. We create ISIS. We create and arm them. We're arming our enemies who are fighting us in Afghanistan. How do you win a war that way? It doesn't make any sense. And then as we're not attacking ISIS, but we know that there's areas, there's targets in ISIS that we can attack. And if you look at where the U.S. is attacking, we're just attacking nothing. There's nothing there. We're just blowing up an empty automobile. We're blowing up an empty building. We're blowing up nothing. We're just bombing. We're doing 18 airstrikes a day, and we're bombing nothing. It's a show. It's all, oh, look, we've tried. We can't beat ISIS. Oh, no. No, we can't. This is Obama. We just are not able to beat ISIS. Oh, no. ISIS is too sneaky for us. We need Russia to help us. And Obama's now cozying up to Putin, saying, hey, Putin, come save us from ISIS. We need your help. We need your help, Putin. Honestly, I think they're setting us up to get in a position where we're emboldening our enemies, because one of the main things that we know from history is that Russians value strength. Russians value strength, and strength equals peace when you're dealing with Russians. You know, if you appear weak, Russians will exploit that weakness, and we are looking so weak. We're emboldening the Russians at every turn. I believe this administration is gearing us up for a fight with Russia. I believe they want a fight with Russia, and they're trying to goad Russia into doing something that they can say, oh, look at these, or as Russia likes to call it, provocations. You know, all these provocations. Look, we're the ones that are going to end up provocating. And by the way, something I just recently found out. Apparently, there's a treaty. Remember that whole thing I was talking about last week? How there's a missile system that we want to put in Poland, and Russia has a real big problem with this. And I was saying, hey, we should do this. If Russia has a problem with this, we should do this. Well, I changed my mind. I found out, got new information. We have a treaty. It's a NATO treaty that NATO wasn't supposed to move forward after the fall of the Berlin Wall. You know, they weren't supposed to move forward, but all these countries ended up becoming NATO countries. And anyway, so now we're actually talking about violating our treaty. Of course, this is going to Russia. This is going to be a provocation. Of course. Why wouldn't they think it's a provocation? We're going against our word. We're going against what we said we would do. Now, granted, if Russia violates their word, as you know, many may think that they're actually doing with Crimea, then I guess that conversation needs to be had. But the conversation, who's having that conversation? Who even knew that there was a treaty? Out there in the audience, how many people in the MacPack, how many knew that there was a treaty with Russia about this? I didn't. It's not being covered. I had to do some digging. I had to dig deep to find this treaty. So it is. It's just very frustrating to me. It seems like this administration is setting up Russia, trying to get Russia emboldened so Russia will do something and we can get into a big conflict. And I know this sounds conspiratorial. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I have to ask you, what other options are there? When you think about it, why would we actively destabilize the Middle East at every turn if what we truly care about over there is stability and their oil? And the only reason why we care about the stability is because of the oil. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't care. So what are we doing? We work to overthrow regimes that are, yes, tyrannical, but they are also stabilizing. They're known quantities. You know, so it's the devil you know, so to speak. And when you take them out, they create a power vacuum. If we were concerned about jihadi terrorism, which apparently we're not, because our president can't even say radical Islam, radical terrorist. He can't say that. So if we're really trying to win that war, why would we continue to destabilize these countries? Why would we create ISIS? Why would we fund and arm our enemies that we're fighting in Afghanistan? And furthermore, why would we not attack targets of opportunity in Syria? Again, Syria is about the size of Washington State. So you guys out there in the Pacific Northwest, you have a really good idea as to the size of that state there, okay? So it's about the size of Washington State, and there's not a whole lot in it. There's a major highway that we've known about that has only ISIS on it. No other vehicles are on that road. So anytime you see a vehicle on this road, you should pretty much know that you can bomb it because it's ISIS. In addition to that, we know that there was a command post, a command center of sorts, that we gave intel to France about so that France could bomb it after they were attacked. So France bombed this command center, command post, and we already knew about it. And I want you to also think about how many vehicles. I'm sure if you're like me, you saw all the vehicles, all the armored Humvees and armored personnel carriers and even some tanks that ISIS has in their control. All right, you may have saw the videos of them cruising down the street in these. Yeah, well, where are these? Where are these tanks? Where are these vehicles? They've got to be stored somewhere, right? And I would imagine that they're either in a building, and we have some satellites that were looking down in that and saw them go into the building, or they're being parked outside. They got to be somewhere. Where are they? Are they all spread out? I don't know, but I'm just saying, from the point of view of somebody who really wants to win the war, this is not a geographically big area. So if you're really trying to kill ISIS, you blow up the highway they're using itself, the physical highway, you destroy any vehicles that are on that highway, you destroy any command posts that you know about. If you see any Humvees or things like that from a satellite, you don't even need to have a drone. We got satellites that look down on this stuff. You don't need a drone in the air to look down anymore, guys. All you got to do is look around, and you can track this stuff. Oh, it was parked over here, and they moved it over here. Okay, let's blow it up. I mean, how hard is that? But we're not doing that. So I ask you, what are we doing? What is everything in the Middle East if it's not for the oil? Because it's clear we're not acting in our own interest. So what is it for? It's got to be for something else. I don't know what. I mean, I don't have proof of what, but it just seems to me that this president is actively working to, number one, undermine the United States. And I think this is openly part of his agenda. This is all part of the leftist statist agenda. And by the way, I recently just got this book here. Let me grab it. This book is written by the spooky dude, George Soros. You all may be familiar with this. His book is titled, I haven't had an opportunity to read this. I am going to read it very soon, especially with what I'm seeing now. I really want to get an inside look into the minds of what I would call one of our enemies from within. Definitely George Soros is at the top of that list. Anyway, this book is called The Bubble of American Supremacy, Correcting the Misuse of American Power. And I believe that, George Soros and Obama, those ilk, I mean, those guys are together. They are in on the same agenda. And I don't necessarily know what the agenda is, and I don't want to go all Alex Jones on you guys, but he may have a point. It's hard to really understate the significance of this. George Soros has said that really, and I'm paraphrasing his quote here, that the biggest obstacle from a new world order, essentially a global governance, and don't even look at it from the scary terms of new world order. What this is essentially the ultimate end goal of any status is the complete centralization of power. And they believe that this is, if they're good, if they're the good guys or the useful idiots, I guess, they believe that this is the best way that we can create peace and tranquility because everything works out great when we centralize. This is what statists think. They think that everything works out great when you centralize everything. So the bigger the central government, the better. So why not just globalize everything? And, this is one of those things that they're working hard on now to create the narrative of a global citizen. We're global citizens. Well, screw that crap. I'm not a global citizen. I'm an American, and I'm not a global citizen. Screw that crap. I don't want to be a global citizen. I renounce my global citizenship, if that's a thing. But they want to centralize power, and the ultimate end is to have a one world government. And again, I know this sounds very conspiratorial, but when you think about it from a statist mindset, why wouldn't you? This would end all conflict. If there's a global authority, a central authority over all countries, all right, or if there are no countries, just one country, then this global government, this central authority, can tell everybody, hey, you better cut that out. I have authority over you. You don't have sovereignty. You can't do what you want. I have authority over you. So essentially, we have a United Nations-esque group that is over us, telling us what to do. Now, first of all, I think that we should leave the United Nations to begin with. We have no business being a part of this organization. It is not a good organization anymore for so many different reasons. But Agenda 21 for one, and now they've switched it up and they're talking about all sorts of other stuff. They want to regulate guns. They think they have the authority to regulate American firearms. This is not their authority to regulate. They don't have any sovereignty over us. I am a free man. You are a free person. And we're also American citizens, so we do not fall under the United Nations governance. But this is what it, I believe, is leading to. They purposefully and willingly make the economic crises worse. They take what would have been something that we could have recovered from on our own, and they bail out the banks, and they do these monetary policies to make it an even worse bubble than it ever was before. So the Great Recession is going to be the Great Depression. This is going to be the mother of all depressions. They've set it up so where other countries are now talking about getting rid of the U.S. dollar as a world reserve currency. We're destabilizing the Middle East, creating a never-ending enemy. The idea of having a terror threat forever, until the end of time, America will be at war with terror. That sounds very Big Brother. With the war with the East Eurasians or West Eurasians, whatever it was, we kept switching back and forth. In 1984, there was always a threat, and they're poking the bear, literally. They are antagonizing Russia, while at the same time projecting weakness, while at the same time asking for their help. And all of this while Russia is cozying up to our NATO allies. We'll get to that later. But anyway, the video continues. This is CNN, Representative Tulsi Gabbard. She continues.
How does the U.S. and Russia avoid that head-on contact? Because you're absolutely right. The U.S. wants to get rid of Bashar al-Assad. The Russians want to boost him and protect him together with the Iranians, their allies, the Lebanese Hezbollah group. They're trying to prop him up. So how do you avoid that potential collision?
Very simple. The U.S. and the CIA should stop this illegal and counterproductive war to overthrow the Syrian government of Assad, and should stay focused on fighting against who our enemy is, the Islamic extremist groups. Because right now we're seeing why this is counterproductive. By working towards that end, by working towards overthrowing the Syrian government of Assad, we are not only strengthening our enemy, the Islamic extremists, who will walk in and take over all of the country of Syria. Right now they have about half of the country under their control, but it also puts us in that position of a potential direct head-to-head conflict with Russia, which brings us to the brink of a potential larger conflict of a World War III type situation.
Why do you say the U.S. effort to get rid of Bashar al-Assad's regime is counterproductive and illegal?
Well, first of all, there's not been a vote in Congress to authorize the use of force, to authorize a war, to overthrow a sovereign government.
Boom. Mic drop. That is where she could have just left that alone right there. Well, we have centralized authority so far now that one person can say that all of you men, women in the American military, all of you go over there and fight for me. Oh no, we're not going to have any Congress, have a formal declaration of war. We're just going to me personally, Barack Hussein Obama, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to send you over there and you're going to do my bidding. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't have to face the voters again. look, this is very frustrating for me because it's obvious that this kind of power, the ability to kill other people, should have to go through more than just one person. That is the most important part, the most important centralization of power that we should protect. And we've handed it all over to an imperial presidency. Anyway, we're going to cut to a commercial break. We'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
All right, we're back. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. If you'd like to join today's conversation, the number to the show is 360-450-5625. Again, that is 360-450-5625. You can message us at facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Or you can get us on Twitter at OnTheMoveShow. Yeah, feel free to message us. Let me know what's on your mind. Okay, so let's finish up this video. Let's finish up this clip here. We got a few more major points that Representative Gabbard is getting to here on the situation in Iraq and Syria. Anyway, so last week we were talking about, she mentioned that there's been no formal declaration of war, and there's been no congressional approval to overthrow a foreign government. That's what we're doing right now. This isn't T-ball, gang. This isn't a joke. This is serious. We are actively trying to overthrow a government. And it's going against our direct interest. Why are we even interested in doing this? It is destabilizing the area. It's destabilizing the Middle East, like it destabilized Libya, like it destabilized Iraq when we left. This is what is going on. And it's actively working against our own interest. It doesn't make any sense. Representative Gabbard continues.
For as long as I've been there, that hasn't happened. It didn't happen before I got there. So the American people haven't had a choice to speak their voice, to approve or disapprove such a war. Therefore, it's illegal. Secondly, it is counterproductive because right now, U.S. arms are getting into the hands of our enemy, Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, these other groups, Islamic extremist groups who are our sworn enemy. These are groups who attacked us on 9/11 and who supposedly we're trying to defeat, yet at the same time supporting them with these arms to overthrow this Syrian government.
So you don't even want the...
Hold that thought, because this is important, all right? We're actively arming up ISIS through Benghazi. We already gave them guns directly. We're doing the same thing to our enemies in Afghanistan. We're arming them as well. But in addition, in Syria, when everything went to hell, all right, when Russia killed all of our guys, but I think 5 left, all of our U.S.-backed Syrian rebels. Again, I'm using air quotes because rebels. One man's rebel is another man's jihadi terrorist, I guess. So, anyway, after that happened, after Russia bombed all of our guys over there, which weren't very many because we were doing a horrible job, because Obama even said, I'm not really that committed to this. He doesn't really have his heart in it. Well, I've heard some people say, well, he's just trying to pass the buck to the next president. He's just trying to, do the bare minimum job. I don't think so. I don't think that you can say that he's trying to do the bare minimum job. I think he's actively working against our interests because he's arming up our enemies. That's not just, he's just trying to do the bare minimum, pass the buck. He's literally arming our enemies. At what point has this become treason? I'm just curious. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying, if you were to arm up America's enemies, if you were directly supplying America's enemies with guns, ammunition, vehicles, all of this stuff, money, if you were doing this, how do you think this would work out for you? Do you think... By the way, if the Tea Party, just ask yourself this, if the Tea Party was arming up jihadi terrorists, do you think that would go well for the Tea Party? Do you think Obama would have any issue prosecuting these people, send them to a firing squad? I don't. I absolutely don't. But again, we have prosecutorial discretion, which basically means that the elites don't have to follow the same laws as us. Prosecutorial discretion is one of the biggest tools of tyranny, and we see that quite often. I was arrested. I was arrested for trespassing on a public sidewalk. I was later charged with displaying a weapon in an open carry state. It went to court. They dropped the trespassing charges. I was convicted on displaying a weapon in an open carry state when every single witness that was brought forth to testify against me said I wasn't threatening anyone. Okay? Prosecutorial discretion, they will pick you out. They will selectively pick who to punish. Make an example out of you. All right? And again, it doesn't matter if they find you guilty or not. The punishment is in the process. The fact that you have to come in on your days off, you have an arrest record now. You got to, if they, like me, they convicted me. By the way, if you don't know, I can't carry a gun right now. Not because I'm barred from carrying a gun, but because I got this conviction on my record. And part of it, they deny you the right to get a concealed carry permit. And I don't know if that carries over to my new state that I live in Kentucky. I'm imagining that would carry over. So I don't have a concealed carry permit right now. And because I don't have a concealed carry permit, I don't want to open carry either, because if I open carry, then they could arrest me again in the 365 days that are hanging over my head from my suspended conviction. If I just get arrested again for doing nothing wrong, I could go to jail for 365 days on a conviction I got from the last trial. Again, the punishment is in the process. I'm still in the appeal process, by the way. I'm not done fighting this. I'm just pointing out the selectiveness of prosecutorial discretion. All right, the elites can get out of it. We can get punished for things when there's no violations of the law. And even if we're found guilty, we are paying the price. We and everyone else in the community are being deterred from that because of what happened to you, and people see what happened to you, and they're like, oh, I don't want that to happen to me. So again, the punishment is in the process. And specifically, about the arming of the rebels. Now, after Russia killed all the rebels in Syria, all right, or bombed a lot of them, we didn't know where the rebels were, so Obama just opened up the back of a big cargo plane and had our guys just push out crates of ammunition and guns. We don't know who it's going to. It's just dropping randomly out in the middle of a desert, hoping that somehow it finds its way into somebody on our side's hands. Obama has no problem arming up terrorists, but you can't be armed. You and I, we can't have guns. Obama says, by the way, Obama says that we should not react emotionally when some big tragic event happens, like Paris, the attack in Paris. He's talking about the refugees, the Syrian refugees. He says, we are better than this. We shouldn't be reacting emotionally. We're not going to deny helping people. This is a melting pot. All the other leftist crap that you hear. Look, we hear him tell us not to react emotionally to things when it has something to do with Islam. All right, and again, they try to tell us that we got to be really sensitive and care about our Muslim friends in our community and stuff, and that's all fine and good. I know there is a difference between a jihadi terrorist and a Muslim who renounces Sharia law. A Muslim who believes that they can live alongside people who don't have the same belief systems. I know there's a difference between that, and I'm not for them getting targeted or harassed, but the left continues to be all about this concern about some kind of backlash on Muslims in America when it's not happening. And if it is, it's rare. It is rare. What is not rare is the attacks from Muslims on the rest of the world, on infidels. I'm sorry, the Islamists inside the Muslim faith, the ones who believe in the literal interpretations of the Hadith and the Quran, the ones who believe that it's okay first of all, that believe in Sharia law, that it's okay to kill an infidel, you can rape an infidel, you can lie to an infidel, you can do whatever you want because they're subhuman and you are destined, preordained by your God to conquer the world, and a caliphate will spread across the planet. So, yeah, we see some issues there. But okay, let's backtrack here. Back to the video here. She made some other final points here I want to get to.
U.S. to provide weapons or arms to these anti-Bashar al-Assad rebels.
I don't want the U.S. government to provide weapons to al-Qaeda, to Islamic extremists, to our enemy. I think it's a very simple concept in my mind that you can't defeat your enemy if you're arming them and helping them at the same time. It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Have you told this to officials at the White House?
We've had conversations, both in hearings and otherwise, and I think it's important for the American people to stand up and say, look, we don't want to go and do what happened in Iraq with Saddam Hussein, do what happened in Libya with Gaddafi, because these are countries that have fallen into chaos and that have been taken over by these terrorists because of the actions that the United States and others took.
You tweet.
Okay, so again, we're arming terrorists. Obama reacts emotionally. He tells us not to react emotionally to the Syrian refugees. Obama reacts emotionally every time there's a mass shooting that happens in a country here. He blames it on the guns and he tries to take away our guns. And again, we look at what happened in France. France is disarmed. France, they're not supposed to have Kalashnikov AK-47s. They're not supposed to have them. They've already been disarmed. It's a very strict gun law country. In fact, pretty much everywhere in Europe is like that. Oh, by the way, FYI, did anybody hear that there was a U.S. armory that got broken into, a United States military armory that got robbed? Nobody seemed to mention that? There's terror cells here in America, gang. It doesn't matter if we have background checks. It doesn't matter if we try to prevent somebody who can't pass a background check from getting a gun. It doesn't matter if we outlaw, if we pass a law or put up a sign that says no guns. A terrorist is not going to care. They didn't even care when they stole the guns from the U.S. Armory. Who knows who that was? We don't know. We got the serial numbers, though, and I guess we'll be able to find out where it went when somebody's killed with it. So there's that. Yeah, we can find out. This is very similar to the thing that happened in the southern border. Let's see, Fast and Furious. That's right, where the U.S. government forced these companies, these mom and pop stores who are selling guns, to sell guns to people that failed the background checks. The BAT fee is basically state sanctioning gun running. And then when we find out that where this all breaks down here is that the guns are being used to kill not only one U.S. border agent, Brian Terry, all right, those are guns that we allowed go across the border to known smugglers. from the cartel that should not have been able to get these guns in the first place, do the background checks, but the U.S. government allowed it in an effort to find out where the guns went. They wanted to track it the same way that I'm talking about with this armory thing. So we find out that one of these guns is used to kill Brian Terry, U.S. border agent. In addition to that, hundreds of Mexicans. Hundreds. So, gun laws don't stop anything. All they do is put an impediment between the law-abiding citizens and their ability to defend themselves. And what we saw in Paris, again, it was close to 500 people who were wounded and killed altogether. About 500 people. I don't believe that this could happen in a place like Texas. I don't think this could happen in a place like Wyoming. I don't think it could happen in a place like Kentucky. I don't think it can happen in a place where people have concealed carry permits, where people have the right to keep and bear arms. I just don't think it could happen the way it happened in Paris. I think that an armed citizenry is the number one way to prevent, or at least hedge our bets against jihadi terrorism. An armed citizenry is the way that we take care of this threat. I mean, granted, somebody may still die from a terrorist attack, but if they're not getting these kind of numbers, if they're getting, one or two kills before they're killed, if they're getting, even if they kill 10 people before they're killed, it's not as big of a motivator to get them to repeat the same tactics. We got to make this just as costly to them as it is for us. This is a war of attrition. That's what this is. They're trying to kill our will, but the problem is they're attacking our homeland. See, this is another issue. If we leave them alone in Syria, if we just let Russia take care of that crap, and they're still going to attack us here at the homeland, where we can't go anywhere. You keep attacking us, you're not going to break our will in our homeland. Where are we going to go? I'm sorry, but I don't believe that Americans will just flee. I don't believe that we'll run. I guess Syrian refugees will run. I guess they don't have any problem. We've got most of the vast majority of these refugees are military-aged men. Obama's trying to convince us that they're 3-year-olds and old ladies, widows and orphans. It's not the case. Sorry, it's just not the case, Mr. Obama. Military-aged men. Now, if they're not jihadi terrorist infiltrators, which they very well could not be, why are they so willing to just abandon their country? Why is that such a big deal in places like Palestine, by the way? They're willing to fight and suicide bomb and, have infantadas or whatever they call it. It sounds like Mexican food. I don't know. But they're willing to do all of this over this little patch of land, but they won't fight for their own country. They're not willing to fight for their own country. Again, it's about 800,000 so-called Syrian refugees. This is an invasion, folks. This is what this is. If it isn't an invasion from jihadi terrorists, it's an invasion from another culture, which, by the way, there is such thing as a national identity. If we take in too many people at once and we don't properly assimilate them into our society, and what I mean by assimilate is make them want to be like us, make them want to be Americans, make them identify as Americans, all right? If we don't do a proper job at that, and they come in and they start their own community, and in the Muslim faith, I'm sorry, but having isolated Muslim groups is an issue. For some reason, it is an issue. And when they isolate themselves, radical elements can emerge, and that can become a threat. We're a lot safer if they're assimilated with us. We can't take in 100,000. We can't take in 100,000 at one time, 800,000 at one time. We can't. It's too much to assimilate. And the same problems that they were fleeing over there will come with them over here as they isolate themselves in the community. They'll push for Sharia law because that's what they believe. They believe that is the supreme law of the land, which it is not. Our Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and that's why Sharia law and the U.S. Constitution are not compatible. Not to mention women are treated like crap over there. But I digress. So I want to actually shift here for a second and talk about Black Friday, because with everything that's going on, with the uptick in terrorist activity, I am concerned about what may happen. Now, I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I really do. I hope that nothing happens on Black Friday, but it just seems like I'm going to put this from a military perspective, a target-rich environment. If you are a jihadi terrorist and you're looking to take out as many Americans as possible, that would seem to be the best date to do it on in the foreseeable future, in the near future. You know that has anybody been to a shopping mall or like a Best Buy or something like that on Black Friday? First of all, there's already, I heard a couple instances in Columbus, Ohio. There was a shooting at a Best Buy in Columbus, Ohio, I think, and it was during Black Friday, and you know, I don't think it had anything to do with terrorism. I think somebody just wanted a TV or something, but or wanted to cut in line or something like that. But there's tons and tons of people at these places. Tons of people. It is a target-rich environment, and I worry about that. So I'm asking you guys, you know, to at least consider it, weigh the risks. You know, I understand it could be hurtful to our economy if we don't go out and spend that money. If we don't spend the money, that we typically would, it could hurt the economy. But you know what? I'd rather see our economy hurt than to see any one of you get hurt. And I'm warning all of my friends and my family to stay home on Black Friday whenever possible. Unfortunately, I will be on the road, but I'm not going to be going shopping or going to any dense population areas. I'm not going to be doing that. So I would hope that you would do the same. Just play it safe. Be safe. Warn your friends and family about it as well. Because to me, it seems like this administration really does want us to get attacked. And, if we're talking about the conspiracy theory tinfoil hat conversation we were having somewhat earlier, I said Alex Jones, George Soros, they and his ilk, Obama, his administration, and a lot of his advisors, they really believe that American power needs to be taken down a notch, and they think that it's the largest stumbling block in their way to get a new world order, a global governance. And if you were going to try to hurt America, one way that you could do that would be to get us into a never-ending war on terror, which is what we have been in. Another way you would do that is to make us double down and get into a conflict with Russia and potentially drag us into a conflict here with Russia. That would increase the state power. I just want you guys to imagine. Remember what happened after 9/11? All right, we had the Patriot Act, we had the National Defense Authorization Act. The power of the state grew tremendously. There was no one who voted against the Patriot Act. All of this happened. We just threw our liberties right at the feet of our now rulers. Please save us. We got the NSA spying on every single human electronic communication. They're data mining this in a center in Utah that can store every single human electronic communication, every single one. Unbelievable amount of data storage. They're spying on us without warrants. The police state here in our country has grown significantly. We've seen the militarization of the police. We have some issues. So imagine if another 9/11 type scenario happened. I believe that if it did, we're going dark. I believe that the statists will finally have what they need to take us over the edge. I think that if we do end up hitting the point where we go dark, where the police state takes over, it might be under the guise of socialism, which would explain, and again, this is very conspiratorial, it would explain why Bernie Sanders is being allowed to run on the Democrat ticket. Why they're, for the first time, as far as I can remember, really having candidates talk about socialism. Definitely within my lifetime, talk about socialism in the open. get it on the campuses with our young people, make it fresh in their mind. I could see us, after being attacked, being thrust into a situation where we're a lot more aggressive in the Middle East, we get into a conflict with Russia, end up World War III type scenario, maybe. But during all of this, our government is changing. Our government is turning, and we make a turn towards socialism. But I think if we do, I don't think we're going to be at socialism very long. Because like what Hitler did with the brown shirts, we have our brown shirts here, by the way. We have the Black Lives Matters. The ones that are the useful idiots. They're angry. They just want to vent. They want their moments of rage, like in 1984. They just want to vent their frustration. And that's why Obama has to continue to stoke those flames, while at the same time giving them something to do. By giving them free college. And again, he's offering to pay. Bernie Sanders is offering to pay. Hillary Clinton offering to pay people free college. The only problem is that's coming out of their own pocket. This is the way the government works. I steal your money and I give it back to you. That's how you would have that money left. You would have more money in your pocket if you weren't already paying for all of this crap. You would then be able to spend it on the crap yourself, and the crap that you're buying would be cheaper because the government wasn't artificially propping up the price to begin with. So you'd all be better off if you weren't continually falling for the crap. All right? The useful idiots out there. I'm not talking to the MacPack. I know you guys know what you're doing, what you're talking about. But again, those brown shirts, the Black Lives Matter, brown shirts were killed by Hitler. As soon as he took power, hey, I got to kill these guys. I know it's completely illegal, but they were a danger. They were a risk. They were a security threat. So we had to kill them. If we go socialist, I believe that sort of thing could happen here. And it just depends on how much power we throw at the feet of our so-called servants who don't serve us anymore. I don't get conspiratorial, but when the writing's on the wall, gang, I mean, what else can there be? We're being attacked by radical Islam, and the day after Paris is attacked, Obama doubles down on Syrian refugees. He releases Gitmo detainees, and he starts pressuring the international community to take in more Syrian refugees. Again, we already know that at least one of the terrorists that attacked in Paris was a Syrian refugee. We also have cases of, by the way, this one's scary here. We have cases of, in Kentucky, there were terrorists from Syria that got caught. And they were planning, they were trying to basically fund ISIS and give them guns through their efforts here. They were going to smuggle guns into Syria from Kentucky. This is in my backyard, Bowling Green, Kentucky. It's about an hour and a half away from me. So it's pretty unbelievable. And one of these terrorists turned out to be a person who made a roadside bomb which killed some Americans in Iraq or Afghanistan. I can't remember where that was. But we'll get to that story in a moment. But as far as I'm concerned, we're being weakened. We're being set up right now, and our border has remained completely open. We have been stifling our own energy process, so we have to continue to be in the Middle East because we're not allowing ourselves to produce the oil, our natural resources that we have. We have so much regulation that we're not even able to really unleash the free market that can create other innovations and get us off oil. All of this stuff, it continues to create our dependency. I really do think that we are at a turning point here, a very critical turning point. We may already be in the beginning of World War III right now. And I don't want to seem alarmist. I want you guys to know that I think this is all going to end up fine for us because I don't think that their plans will work. I think that liberty will prevail. But I'm realizing now that the end of the first hour is coming up here. And by the way, for those of you on the 405media.com, I'll give you a shout out. If you guys want to listen to the rest of the program, you can do so on our website, OnTheMoveShow.com, or you can go to Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow and check out the second and potentially the third hour. I'm not sure if we're going to do one today in Overdrive. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and cut to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the efforts that Russia is doing right now to try to woo France to their side. I want to talk about internet sales tax and Obamacare beginning to collapse under its own weight. So you guys don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
All right, Mac, we're into the second hour of the program, and we've got a lot to get to here. So, the very first thing I want to get to is Russia's attempts to woo France. Russia is working really hard. I don't know if you all were remembering. It wasn't too long ago that it was in the news. I believe it was Angela Merkel. She was talking about France leaving NATO potentially, and very concerning. You know, NATO, that's us. That's our team. And France was talking about leaving NATO in favor of joining Russia. So that would be a game changer if France became to really an ally of Russia. It would change some balance of power in regards to a conflict between Russia if we end up in that situation, which I think that's what we're being led to. And by the way, before we get into this cozying up between Russia and France, I want to read you guys an article here I find particularly interesting. So, all you really have to do is find out what Soros is doing to find out what you should be against. George Soros, again, the one who wrote the book, The Bubble of American Supremacy, The Misuse of American Power, something along those lines. So, I'm reading an article here on Breitbart.com. Soros-backed group launches bid to keep Syrian refugees flowing. Well, if Soros wants it, then we should not. And again, I'm not for helping people who we know for fact are not ISIS. And how do we tell that? Well, Christians are not ISIS. There are no Christians whatsoever that are members of ISIS. So, at least none that we found. And, according to their ideology, they're infidels and they should be killed. Or you should, force them to pay a tax until you decide that you want to kill them. is essentially what it is. That you're a second-rate citizen, and until which time they decide to kill you. So anyway, a group masquerading as a conservative but backed by left-wing foundations, including George Soros' Foundation to Promote Open Society, has launched an online advertising campaign in defense of bringing Syrian refugees into the United States. This article is written by Christopher C. Hull on Breitbart.com. The banner ad bears taglines like "Support freedom, not fear," and "America is better when we welcome refugees." They lead to a microsite located at americaisbetter.org with Old Glory-clothed, American flag-waving young people with a light-skinned blonde leading the way for others who appear to be ethnic minorities, partially or fully obscured behind her. The site in turn quotes conservative icon, former President Ronald Reagan, saying America is better when we embrace President Reagan's shining city, teeming with people of all kinds, living in harmony and peace. The site derides, who would make us react in fear of those different from us? It continues, as Commander-in-Chief, Reagan kept America safe. At the same time, he was the world's great liberator. In the words of British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, he welcomed refugees from the Soviet Union, Cuba, Vietnam, and elsewhere. The site likewise quotes unnamed security experts as supporting the screening process. Now, let's point out here, our own State Department has pointed out that it takes about 2 years to properly vet a Syrian refugee, any refugee, to properly vet them. And we already know that some of these databases, by the way, like the one where that gentleman, I guess that's too far of a stretch here, that jihadi terrorist in Kentucky who used a roadside bomb to kill Americans, they found his fingerprints on the bomb. All right, and they threw all the bomb components and the fingerprints in a little database in a warehouse, tucked it away, but they didn't cross-reference that database when they let these guys into the country. That is essentially what happened. This guy got a visa to come into the country, I believe, and he had been living in Kentucky on U.S. taxpayer dime, by the way, and smuggling weapons to their terrorist buddies in Iraq. All of this is going on, and it's because when you centralize government, you're not really making things more efficient. You're just creating more bureaucracy, and this is just one of those points here. First of all, the government doesn't have a duty to protect you. They have no responsibility to protect you. And in fact, it behooves them to allow every now and then an attack to go through because it keeps you scared. It keeps you afraid. There is a level where if every single time we're getting hit, we're just getting hit continually, then it starts to call into question the leadership abilities of our, people in charge. But keeping you, afraid, keeping you on the defensive is a tactic to get more power from you, to have you give up more of your freedoms in order to gain some security. And as Benjamin Franklin, the one who said that quote, said, you deserve neither and you'll lose both. So, anyway, Soros, he's trying to encourage us to open our borders, to get more. First of all, this is Open Society. This is the foundation. The foundation to promote open society. So I'm guessing this is essentially an open borders thing. And Soros is trying to get refugees in. And this is what Obama's doing. They're on the same page as usual. I believe they have the same agenda. If we look at what's going on, though, it seems obvious. If you have a group of people where you can't differentiate who is a bad guy and who is a good guy within, because, again, they can lie to you. They can tell you, if you ask them, do you disavow Sharia law? And they say yes, but they really mean no. How do you tell the difference? So the Christians, the Syrian Christians who are being exterminated by ISIS are clearly not a threat, no more of a threat than what the Jews were during World War II. The Jews were being exterminated by the Nazis. And, you can pretty much guarantee that if you're grabbing a Jew, a refugee, that they're not going to be a Nazi because the Nazis hated the Jews. Similarly here, obviously ISIS hates Jews as well, but they hate all non-believers, all infidels. So the Christians are being killed. The Christians are being slaughtered. We can take in Syrian Christian refugees and not have to worry. And there are ways that we can vet those Christians that are much more effective than anything that we can do. If we're talking about even just a full screening, of Muslim refugees, Syrian Muslim refugees, again, that would take up to 2 years. But even when you go through that, there's no guarantee that you're going to get every bit of information. Are you sure that the person that you're letting in does not believe in Sharia law? Are you sure? Because even if they're not an active terrorist, even if they've never killed anyone, if they believe in Sharia law, it's my opinion that we should not get them here. Their belief of Sharia is not compatible with our society. I'm sorry, it is not. Now, you have people on all sides, say, oh, we should be tolerant. We should be religiously tolerant. Look, I am completely tolerant of people's religion. What I am intolerant of is intolerance. I have no toleration for intolerance. None whatsoever. And the literal interpretation of the Hadith in the Quran is not tolerant. You can't live beside that. They want to kill you. They can lie to your face. They can rape your women. They can kill you. They can send your women into slavery. It's not a sin. In fact, it's their duty. They believe that if they die in the process of furthering Islam, the cause of Islam, that they get 72 virgins. How do you live with this? You cannot be tolerant. This is one thing that the left has done to us, guys. They have tried to convince us that we can be tolerant against, of everything, of anything. We can be relativists no matter what, even if it kills us. All right? We can't judge their society because we don't know what it's like being in their society, and therefore we can't cast any judgments. There's nothing concrete. Everything is relative. There are no black and white here. Everything's gray. Well, look, if we're not dealing in an absolute world, all right, if there are no absolutes and everything is relative, well, then how can you tell us that everything is relative because that is an absolute statement? You're telling us that everything is relative absolutely. So even that statement doesn't make sense. That was Mark Shaw, by the way. I stole his idea. That's a good point to mention. Anytime you start dealing with these relativists, though, okay? How do you justify this? Again, everything is not relative. All right, there is good, there is evil, there is in between. Yes, absolutely, there is in between. But when you see evil, you have to call it out. You have to. Again, and Dietrich Bonhoeffer, I think I said this last week. I couldn't remember his name, but Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, "Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act." We will not be held blameless. You have to call out evil when you see it. And this is evil. This belief system is evil. If this is what it means to be a Muslim, which I don't think so. I think I know Muslims that seem to be good people. They seem to be genuine people. And I know that not every Muslim inside the religion believes in the literal interpretation of the Hadith in the Quran. Some of them don't. And the problem right now is we are witnessing a fight within this religion, no different than what we had during the Crusades. We used to believe that it was okay to kill non-believers. You either convert or die. We did that as a Christian community. And again, I am not a Christian. All right? But being an agnostic myself, if Christians were saying you need to convert or die, I would say that is evil. And I would speak out against that just like I'm doing right now. But there was a Reformation, and Christians realized that they could coexist with people that didn't have the same religious beliefs. The problem is right now is the way I see this, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not hearing the Muslims who are not Islamicists, the Muslims who actually can peacefully coexist. I'm starting to think that the Islamicists, the jihadists, are winning in their reformation, because I'm not hearing them speak out. I'm not hearing the good Muslims speak out. I would love to hear the good Muslims say, hey, you're right, we shouldn't take these guys because some of these guys probably believe in Sharia law, and that would be detrimental to our society. Where are the good Muslims speaking out? And maybe there are out there. I haven't seen them in the news. Maybe the news is spinning it. It's very possible. You know, we got a left-wing media who doesn't want to cover this kind of stuff. But they're having a reformation right now in the Muslim faith. They're either going to decide that they can live peacefully with the rest of the world, or they're not. And if they're not, they're going to actively work towards spreading the caliphate across the world. And Obama keeps telling us that you know, maybe they have some justified complaints. You know, and again, I've mentioned this before, but I think this is the most overblown thing that we can talk about. Yeah, they hate us because we're interventionists. Yeah, that makes sense. But they also hate us because we're non-believers. And they tell us that. They tell us that they can kill us because they're non-believers, because we are non-believers. We're infidels. They can kill us. And it's their destiny. In fact, they're required to kill us. So we're not listening to their words. We're not listening to what they say. Oh, death to America, death to Israel. Oh, no. We don't mean the American people, just your government, your policies. Death to your policies, death to America. Yeah, right. They want to kill us. Those who believe in the literal interpretations of the Quran and the Hadith. I mean, this is a big uniter. I would argue is those who believe in the literal interpretation. You know, we've had factions within the Arab community fighting it out amongst each other. You know, they divide, yet they stay united on certain principles. And we're noticing that this faction, the ones who believe in this, in Sharia law, in the literal interpretation of the Quran and the Hadith, those who believe in this are growing. Their numbers are growing. Those who are willing to fight and kill for that are growing. Now, I want to hear from the Muslims who can peacefully coexist. I would love that. I would love to see that. I would love to hear them in the streets condemning, Hamas, condemning Hezbollah, condemning ISIS, condemning Sharia law. And I understand why they don't. I mean, I understand the fear behind it. Right now, I could be killed for what I'm saying right now. I want you to realize that. What I'm saying could kill me. And if it does, I'm prepared for that. I don't want to die. But I'm not going to be silenced. I'm not going to be afraid to speak my mind. I'm not going to let the terrorists win. Now, Obama talks about, if we stop letting refugees in, we let the terrorists win. We'll let the terrorists win if we stop being the America that we are. We let the terrorists win. Well, first of all, this is a pointless act because we don't. First of all, we are not the world soup kitchen. We're not the world police. We're not your daddy Warbucks. We're not here to give you handouts. Okay, I'm sorry, we're not. Why isn't Saudi Arabia taking these guys in? Why isn't Jordan taking these guys in? Why aren't the surrounding Arab nations taking in their own? We can take in the Christians, and we would take in the Muslims. The only problem is we can't tell the bad ones from the good ones. If I could find a way, if we could find a way to guarantee that these people weren't going to turn on us, of course we'll take them in. But we're not going to just take them in with a chance of them being jihadi terrorists, the very people that want to kill us. We already know are here. They've infiltrated us already. We're going to make it worse on ourselves, in addition to the ethnic problem that would occur, not necessarily a cultural problem, there we go, that would occur by bringing in vast numbers of migrants into the country, of immigrants into the country. Again, they're not coming, this isn't their first stop, so they're not refugees. They're already somewhere. They've already gone somewhere. It's not like we're dropping a plane into Syria, picking them up, and they're coming here. They fled somewhere. They were refugees somewhere else. Now they want to immigrate. Now they are immigrants. We have a legal process to go through, an immigration process. Otherwise, you can stay where you were as a refugee. But no, we're supposed to take them in. Again, the issue, if they come here, don't assimilate because they're in too big of numbers and try to push for Sharia law, which is happening all over the United States. They're trying to push for Sharia law. They want their own courts. They want their own justice system. They want to be exempt from ours. And they want us to be subject to theirs. It's not about inclusivity. It's about exclusivity. They want to exclude our laws and our legal protections and expand their own. They want to expand. This is what it's about. The ones who literally believe this stuff, they believe in this. They believe it's their job to spread Islam. Okay, so I think that's some crazy stuff, right? So Obama's doubling down on the refugees. He's at the same time releasing Gitmo detainees. By the way, Gitmo. What do you guys think about Gitmo? Do you think that we should have it at all? Do you think we should keep those guys in there? Do you think they should get a trial? I mean, what is the deal with Gitmo? Okay, I think this is such a simple situation when it comes to Guantanamo Bay. All right, we got people who are suspected of terrorism. All right, well, if they're suspected of terrorism, you should have to try them in a court. This is my opinion, but also the United States Constitution's opinion. And granted, you start having issues of enemy combatants and things along those lines, but we're not talking about nation states here, guys. Okay? We're talking about individuals, again, terrorist organizations. Some of them are state-sponsored, things along those lines, but it's hard to tell, hard to prove. So what do? I mean, I think that you lock them away, as we're doing with Gitmo. Perfect. Yeah, that's great. But you got to give them a trial. In order to be legit, you got to give them a trial. And are we really concerned that us putting them on trial is going to end up badly? Like they're going to go back out on the streets? First of all, if you didn't have enough evidence that they did something wrong, they shouldn't be in jail until you have evidence. So I'm not for locking people up that you don't have evidence. You just have a hunch. You lock them up in Gitmo forever? No, I don't like that. But even still, give them a trial. Because let me tell you, my trial, I was, again, arrested for trespassing and displaying a weapon. All right, later, added to the charge. I was convicted when I didn't break any laws. Still appealing it. Still working on that. But I was convicted because a jury was emotional. They decided based on emotion and not based on the law. All right? If they can do that to me, and there's people all over this country that are convicted for crimes that they didn't commit. All the time, because we don't really have a fair and impartial jury system anymore. First of all, we aren't even allowed to mention jury nullification in our trial. You're not even allowed to mention it in court. They'll kick you out. They'll stop you. They'll kick you out of the court. Or, if you're really unlucky, they'll arrest you. Just for mentioning jury nullification during your trial. And what is jury nullification? It's your ability as a juror to say, no, I will not find this person guilty. You can say that. It doesn't matter what instructions your judge has given you. You can decide with your conscience. Does this person deserve to go to jail? Is there a victim? These are the questions that we're supposed to be asking. But instead, we don't get a fair trial anymore. There's no such thing as a fair trial anymore. A jury of your peers. Yeah, right. So, do we really think that terrorists or even suspected terrorists can even come close to getting a fair trial? A fair trial, guys. I don't believe it. We should keep Gitmo. Keep it. Just have everybody in it go through trial. And if you can't convict them, then you're doing something wrong. You have somebody in custody that you shouldn't. Now, they may very well be a terrorist, but you should have not apprehended them until you got enough info, or you should have collected more info. And if you don't have anything, that even if you can't take it to trial and have a jury make an emotional decision on, what are you doing? Really? I don't believe that. I guarantee you right now, if every single terrorist in Gitmo right now went on trial, they'd be found guilty. I don't even care what evidence they have. Just the mere accusation of the state. Again, you have the state telling the jury that they're terrorists. People look at the state as an authority figure. Oh, everything you tell me, state, and we're grooming a society of statists who drool at the altar of the state, that they throw their liberties at. These people believe anything that the government will tell them. A police officer testifies against you in court, they're going to believe the police officer's word over yours. Every time. Every time. Even though the police have the burden of proof. They're the ones that have to prove that you're guilty, not the other way around. Instead, we're proving that we're innocent, and they're just saying, yeah, he did it, and I'm a cop, and you should believe me because I'm a cop. This is the point, is that we could give all these detainees a trial. Yeah, it may be more of more than what they're worth. You know, they may be getting more respect than they'd give us, but we do have a law of the land, and we have to do things right. But once we find these guys guilty, throw away the freaking key. Yeah, don't put them in gen pop in a normal prison. Lock them in Gitmo. Throw away the key, or kill them. You know, if you really are serious about it, I guess kill them. I'm not for that. I'm not really for the death penalty. I don't like the whole idea of our government killing people. I would prefer them just to lock them up. Lock them up, segregate them from society. And even segregate them from our own prison systems, because we don't want terrorists escaping jail. And being in the United States, and other terrorist cells trying to break people out in the United States. Let's put them in Gitmo where they're hard to get to. So, and then Obama pressures the international community. This is very frustrating for me, because look, he's saying he's going to help pay for these refugees. He's offering our money to pay for people who probably hate us. Probably hate us. Again, this is the foreign aid thing. Why do we continue to give money to people who don't like us? Our power grid right now, completely open and vulnerable to an EMP attack. It would cost, at most a couple $2 billion maybe to upgrade the power grid. I've seen estimates ranging between $2 billion and $100 million. So let's just say $2 billion to upgrade the power grid. We don't have to do it all at once. By the way, that's all in one go. We could do it small little increments, little by little. Get the biggest areas, the most important areas that we need to protect. Get those hardened. Instead of spending money on stuff overseas, instead of trying to offer our money to people who hate us, how about we focus on what's really important here? But again, I think Obama is leaving us wide open. If something happens here, we'll end up in a conflict, or overseas we'll get more aggressive, maybe get in a situation between us and Russia, In the process, we're giving up our liberties, throwing it to our oppressors. And all the while, Obama and Soros, they're working to make us less safe. They're trying to get more Syrian refugees in here. And again, not every single one of them. I'm not saying 100% of them are terrorists. But even if just one of them is a terrorist, that's too many terrorists. We just brought over. We need to be getting rid of terrorists. We don't want to bring them to us, okay? So, it's funny that the left they like the saying, if it only saves one life. If it only saves one life. Well, what if this kills lives? What if this takes lives? Who's going to be held responsible? Is the president going to be held responsible? Is he going to take responsibility for any deaths that are caused from Syrian refugees? He should. He's the one making the decision. If he's going to force it on our governors, which, by the way, don't want this, he should be forced to take responsibility because he's the one making us vulnerable. But anyway, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about this and more of our featured topics. I want to get to Russia trying to woo France, internet sales tax, and Obama beginning to collapse under its own weight. So you guys don't want to miss this. We'll be right back.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
What's up? All right, we're back. So we got some activity on Twitter here. Mark on Twitter says, I was looking for a cartoon. I once saw that the 72 virgins were all guys, but this is better. And he tweeted a picture of 72 virgins, and they just so happen to be Catholic nuns. And it looks like they're carrying guns of some sort. Is that what that is? Yeah, it looks like they got muskets. So that may be the... Much to their surprise, the virgins awaiting Muslims in heaven were not quite what they expected. That's pretty funny. I went ahead and retweeted it, guys, so feel free to check that out. Again, that's at OnTheMoveShow on Twitter. Feel free to message me if you got anything that you want to comment on, or you can just give us a call. Number to the show is 360-450-5625. Again, that is 360-450-5625. Or you can message us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. All right, so I promised you guys we move forward here into some of our other our featured topics. So Russia right now, they're trying to actually woo France. They're trying to get them on their side, and this is a concern for me. So let's start out. We got several different stories that I want to get to here. First one, Russia has inscribed for Paris on their bombs, okay? So, and these are the bombs that are going to be attacking ISIS. So this is, again, this is a small little act, but it's all about, hey, Paris, we got your back. Look, we're looking out for you. So Russian ground crews are inscribing the words "For Paris" on some bombs destined to be dropped on targets in Syria, and a message of solidarity with the victims of last week's Paris attacks. Well, that's awful nice, right? It's weird, though, because last I heard Paris was a NATO ally, but okay, well, that's cool. What else are they doing? Well, let's see. I think this was last year, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. November 2014. Russia exerts influence in France with trade diplomacy and loans to Le Pen. The Chinese have panda diplomacy. By the way, this is on TheGuardian.com, an article written by Kim Wilshire. The Chinese have panda diplomacy. The Russians, it appears, prefer trees. France may have just announced it is delaying the delivery of 2 warships to Russia in a protest over the crisis in Ukraine. But the French capital celebrated Notre Dame Cathedral, and the French capital is boasting an impressive 25-meter-high Christmas tree courtesy of Moscow. So this thing reportedly cost about 64,000 euros to transport and install on the square outside the cathedral on an island in the River Seine. Came after parishioners and the local firms failed to raise enough funds for the seasonal tree. It was unveiled by Russia's ambassador to France. And so this is one of the things another one. Okay, so that may not be much, but hey, it's an olive branch, so to speak, or actually, I guess a bunch of branches. But the last one here, I think this is got a video with it too. So I'll play the clip if it has one here. Okay, yeah, it looks like it's not going to play. Okay, so anyway, this is Russia's offering France a puppy as a gesture of solidarity. So Russia's interior minister says that he will give a German Shepherd puppy to the French police to honor the police dog killed in action and expressed solidarity with France in the aftermath of the Paris attacks. This is USAtoday.com. Article was written by Mary Bowerman. So again, Russia is working to cozy up to France. Russia's trying to actually, again, they're smart. They're smart. Putin is a smart guy. He's trying to, first of all, work his way into the Middle East. He wants to have access to the oil. He's got control over the pipeline that goes into Europe. So he can control the oil that's flowing into Europe. They're branching off, from what I understand on that. And unless you guys have any other information, from what I understand, last I heard, China was building a pipeline off of this pipeline that Russia has. So Russia will also control the oil going into China. So again, if you control the oil, you can strong-arm people to do what you want. But Russia understands that there are 2 options. You have the carrot and the stick, and Putin is offering the carrot right now to France. Come over to our side. Leave NATO. You don't need to worry about NATO. We're your friends. You don't need NATO to protect you from us. We're your friends. So, again, what weakens NATO makes Russia stronger. It's bad for us. It's good for them. In addition to what they're trying to do with the pipeline, they're trying to get into the Middle East, get a foothold. So, again, if they control just a few areas of the oil out there, okay, a few of these strategic resources, they can really put a stranglehold on the oil. Which is why it's important for us to, first of all, get off of foreign oil. We are sitting on a ton of it. We've got more natural resources underneath our feet than we'll be able to use in 100 years. I want you to think back, okay? I just want you to sit and think for a second about your life when you were 20 years old, okay? Think about your life when you were 20. Now, this will be different for everybody because everybody had different experiences, okay? And we're all different ages. So, if you're 50, we're thinking 30 years ago. For me, that's 10 years ago. I was 20 years old 10 years ago. All right? I'm thinking about the kind of computer technology that we had 10 years ago, the kind of phones that we had, the internet, quality of life, all of this stuff has changed dramatically within just 10 years. You know, everybody's got cell phones now. You've got access to a computer with the internet, with the, every single human bit of information, all our collective information, everything that we've learned over the years in your pocket. You carry it around with you everywhere you go and have access instantly. You have a question you didn't know? Oh, boom. Well, let me Google it. There we go. Got it. That's all changed dramatically in 10 years. Now, if you're older than me, you know, you being 20, imagine if you're 60 years old right now. You're imagining your life 40 years ago. 40 years ago. How did things look? All I'm saying is that we have enough oil to underneath our feet to last at least 100 years, if not more. I think I've actually heard hundreds of years, according to reports. But anyway, we don't need much time to get off of oil at all. We can find a way to get off of oil. Number one, we have to incentivize it by letting loose and deregulating the free market, not by pumping taxpayer money into that, but letting the free market decide what is a good idea and what's a bad idea. Because when you artificially prop things up, you're actually screwing up the system, because by artificially propping something up, that means you're propping up a bad idea. If it was a good idea, you would not need to prop it up. The free market would do it itself. So we need to deregulate and allow ourselves to access this oil. Number one, it gets us out of the Middle East. Number two, it gives us something to export and a reason for our allies in NATO to stay friends with us, because honestly, we're not bringing much to the table anymore, guys. You know, we got 18, almost 19 trillion in debt, I think now. We're collapsing. Our bureaucracy, our Leviathan is about to crash down under its own weight if we don't do something fast. We need to have something to export. We need to have something that we produce. We can produce oil. We can be the alternative when Russia starts twisting the arm, when the carrot stops working and Russia decides to use the stick. We need to be there to be an option for someone else, for France. When France is realizing that Russia's not really looking out after their best interest, we need to be willing to say, hey, France, we'll sell you our oil because Russia's strong-arming you. Do that with the rest of NATO. We need to be an alternative, but we're not doing that. We're preventing ourselves from that. We're setting ourselves up for a fall. I honestly believe that. I mean, I can't see it. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Obama is not the maniacal madman that I think he is. Maybe there's not. And again, what am I saying? Is there a shadow government that's making all these deals? Well, I mean, probably there's some backroom deals that are going on somewhere. I mean, there's, even at the highest echelons of power, there's some people that are cozying up next to each other, and they may not necessarily be working towards the same goals, because I believe that we all kind of are self-interested. So Soros's ultimate goal may be that he has the power, and someone else's ultimate goal may be that they have the power. Someone else's goal may be something else. I don't think that they're mutually exclusively working together at all times, like their ultimate goals, but I think these people are working against American interest, for one. I know that to be true. They're actively working against American interest. They're arming our enemies. They're trying to take American power down. I think they're emboldening our enemies on purpose in order to draw them into a conflict, making ourselves weak and vulnerable in the homeland in order so that we can be attacked, so that they can go get us involved in this war. They want war. And I think that possibly a war is really the only way that they can get what they want. The global governments, a war that is so bad, a nuclear war would do it. You imagine if there was nuclear war again, two countries attacking each other with nuclear weapons. Do you think that there wouldn't be a push for a one world government after that? You think the rest of the world would not come together and say, we got to make sure that this never happens again? How do we do that? Well, the only way that we do it is we have a central government over the world this international government that can tell everyone else what to do. They have authority, and you don't have sovereignty anymore, and that's where it starts. It grows from there, guys. Even if countries still exist at that point, even if it's just this one government that supersedes all of the other governments, and all the governments are still there, that's where it starts, because it's as soon as it gets a foot in the door, you're screwed. And that's how all governments are. You can't have a government that is more powerful than all the other governments and expect all the other governments to survive. Look at what happened to our state governments, guys. Look what happened to state sovereignty. The federal government won. It got its foot in the door, and it won. Now, I mean, if you guys are in favor of the system of federalism that we have here in America, if you guys think that this is really working out for us, I would disagree. I don't think that you probably do think that. I think that you guys can see how state sovereignty, the states' rights, have been systematically and utterly dissolved, stripped away, little by little, and eventually. By the way, the biggest impingement, the biggest thing in the way of our federal government from stripping away state sovereignty was the Constitution, but they found ways around it. So, the biggest impingement is that. So, do you think that if a weakened America, especially after a nuclear war, do you think that we would be in any position to oppose a global governance? We'd be able to say, hey, we have our own sovereignty. We're not going to be subjected to you guys, especially if we're not a world power anymore, if we're not a superpower anymore. Now, I think this will all end well for us, because I understand that these systems cannot survive. The systems collapse. And I believe that whenever it all comes tumbling down, everything, globally, everything is done. When this whole statist idea comes to a head, I believe that at some point we're going to shrug everyone off of our shoulders and realize that we can do this on our own without government, or with minimal, extremely restricted government. A government that can barely do anything. But that's the kind of government that I want. In fact, I would prefer no government, but I understand the need for certain aspects. And it's not to build roads. It's not for schools. It's to resolve disputes, pretty much essentially. And as far as for a federal government, protecting the people, I've talked about this to infinitum, so I won't go into this too much further. But okay, so I got some other stories here. Russia is saying U.S. policies helped the Islamic State. This is on Bloomberg.com. U.S. actions in the Middle East helped Islamic State to gain influence, Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev said, according to Interfax. The strengthening of the Islamic State became possible partly due to irresponsible U.S. politics that focused on fighting Syrian President Bashar al-Assad instead of joining efforts to root out terrorism. Medvedev, I can never say this guy's name, Medvedev was cited as saying in Kuala Lumpur on Sunday. President Barack Obama earlier on Sunday said that Russia is facing a strategic choice as Assad can't stay. The Obama administration declined to comment on Sunday about Medvedev's statement. I can't say that guy's name. Anyway, so Putin is forcing us to have a decision here. We're either going to choose as a world, as a globally here, we're either going to have to support Assad or we're going to have to support ISIS, and I think that's a clear choice that we can't support ISIS. Although we have, technically we have. So maybe we will. Who knows? Maybe Obama get on the mic and say, "Now look, guys, I think we've got a misunderstanding here. ISIS is our friends, and we should team up with them to destroy Assad." Maybe that's something that's going to happen, but I don't see that one getting by. Because I think the vast majority of Americans understand that we are at war with ISIS. Whether or not we admit that we're at war with them or not, they're at war with us and they want to kill us. So I don't think that you can pull that wool over the American public's eyes. So I think we're going to end up, just letting either Putin do his thing. I mean, basically, we don't have a choice here, and this is why we're in the position. This is why these guys are actually covertly, building up ISIS to destabilize the region, to topple Assad, and then they want to come in later. Maybe if you believe that they're good guys, that they want to come in and with boots on the ground, and then prop up another democratic shill, another democratic puppet for the American people, American government, really. And again, we're going to start nation building again. This plan doesn't work. It does not work. How about we destroy them? How about that? How about we send these guys back to the Stone Age? How about we make it really suck for screwing with us? How about that? I mean, I know that we don't fight war like this anymore, but I mean, they live in a desert, Water is already in short supply. I mean, if we were going total war over there, I mean, we could just take out their water, their ability to get water. But we don't fight like that. And again, not all of them are bad. We can't tell the difference between the good ones and the bad ones. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying that we're not fighting war smart anymore, If you're not going to fully fight your opponents, if you're not going to fight them on your terms, if you're going to fight them on their terms, you shouldn't be fighting them. I like to learn about strategy, or as George W. Bush likes to say, strategery. I like to learn about strategery. I'm terrible at that. All right, so I'll work on that one, but. George W. Bush, he's talking about strategery, and I like to learn about strategy, war strategy, tactics, things along those lines. I'm a big fan of, the art of war. One of those things is that you don't fight your opponent on their terms. You control how you fight. And again, I mentioned the Fabian strategy where we hole up, we produce our own oil. I like this idea, the holing up and protecting your interest, securing your interest, finding the lines in the sand that you're willing to fight over, and not fighting over something that you're not willing to fight over. Not drawing a red line, not even trying to protect things that you are not willing to go to the mat for. So, the Fabian strategy, we get our oil. We start pumping our own oil, get energy independent, arm up our people, make it impossible for them to successfully pull off a Paris-style attack like they did. So let's make it so costly for them, and let's make it costly for them in their home, where they sleep. Let's never let them rest. Let's never let them have an easy, soft target here. And let them know we're prepared to fight to the end because we're free and we'll fight for our freedom. How long are they willing to continue this? I think that's the cheapest, most cost-effective, the safest way, and the way that promotes liberty the most. But what do I know? So let's move forward here. Let's go to some of our other stuff here. So we talked about Russia, how they're trying to woo France. All right, let's talk about internet sales tax for a second. We got a couple minutes. So first of all, the argument here that is being made and that you're going to see in the very near future is that we need to tax the sales transactions of all the sales on the internet, okay? Everything that's sold over the internet, you need to charge sales tax, okay? So, first of all, that is a huge tax revenue, all right? Ginormous, immense. There's no comprehending that. It's going to be gigantic, or as Trump would say. And frankly, it's going to be gigantic. So, look. The reason why people don't want to do this, again, this is all about corporations colluding with the government, all right? Because physical businesses are having to compete with the internet, and there is roughly, in this state, Kentucky, there's like a 6 or so % sales tax that's added to it at a physical business. So you could buy something online, and it's automatically going to be 6% cheaper, and that's their complaint. Oh no, it's 6% cheaper. We can't compete. Well, there is something, first of all, to benefit in being able to physically look at the item that you're going to buy. So they do have a niche market there. There's a benefit to that. But let me just point out, the free market does not artificially prop up bad ideas. Okay? So if physical businesses become a bad idea, they'll go away. And it doesn't matter how much you try to have the government and these corporations collude, they're going to go away. And if they don't go away, it's going to cost a tremendous amount to continue to prop them up. You'll create a bubble, and then that bubble will pop, and we'll see a collapse. We'll see financial distress, and you've wasted all of this money, all of this effort, all of this wealth trying to prop up a bad idea, which will pop anyway. It will collapse under its own weight to begin with because it's a bad idea. And the fact that you're pumping money into something that is a bad idea to artificially prop it up will take money away from people in other areas. Okay, so back to the internet sales tax. With this one, it's a little bit different because what they're saying is, we're being taxed and it's not fair, so they should have to be taxed too because it's not fair. It's not about the idea of taxes is that the government is stealing your money to do something with it. Okay? And we already know that the government has made more money this last tax season than they ever have. They're making more money than they've ever had before. And we're told that the cupboards are bare. We're told that they just don't have any more money left. Oh, boo-hoo. They need us to just give more of our hard-earned money up. So, yeah, that's what we're told. But that's not the case. They've made more money than they've ever made in history. So let me ask you, if you're making more money than you've ever made, I've used this analogy before, but if you're making more money than you've ever made before, do you have a spending problem or an income problem if you continually spend more than you make? I would argue that you have a spending problem, not an income problem. But again, that is what our leadership tells us. Our guys at the top, or women. Now, I believe Nancy Pelosi said that. Let me see this here. Nancy Pelosi, cupboards are bare. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's Pelosi telling us that they don't have any more money. Boo-hoo.
But again, I just have to point out that President Clinton, President Bush, President Reagan, and this president have all negotiated the debt ceiling.
Okay, this is back during the debt ceiling negotiations. The leftists are trying to tell us that raising the debt ceiling doesn't mean that we're going to spend more money. No. It doesn't mean that we're going to go further into debt, although it does, and it did, and it is, and that's what they're doing. It's so stupid to pretend that if we raise a debt ceiling that it's not going to increase the amount of debt that we have because we're not putting any limitations. We're not lowering. We may be lowering a deficit sometimes. Like Obama says, he cut the deficit in half. The only problem is he doubled it. He doubled it, and then he cut it in half. So anyway, here she is.
Given up something for that. So why now?
Because the cupboard is bare. There's no more cuts to make. It's really important that people understand that.
Yeah, the cupboards are bare. They made more money than they have ever made before. The issue is not that they're not making enough money. The issue is that they're spending too much damn money. They got too many programs. They're putting too much of your money in other people's pockets. That's the problem. The cupboards aren't bare. These people are wasteful. These people are spending too much money. So internet sales tax, again, this is not about funding the government now. You're talking about taxing people in order to be competitive. You're talking about corporations colluding with the government to make it more difficult on their competitors. Well, I got a video here that I want to play a clip from because this is kind of interesting. These are Democrats talking about 10 reasons why they oppose the internet sales tax. So we got Democrat Ron Wyden, I believe. Here it is, real quick.
Mr. President, the Senate is on course to consider profoundly misguided legislation, the Marketplace Fairness Act, but it is anything but fair.
Senator Ron Wyden.
I rise today to urge the Senate not to move forward on the Marketplace Fairness Act.
Senator Baucus. That's Senator Baucus. 10 reasons.
The Marketplace Fairness Act is going to hobble the internet economy and constrain online commerce.
Forces small businesses across the country to spend time and resources they should be using to create jobs, jumping through new bureaucratic hoops.
Sovereignty of our states is significantly eroded.
Full of unintended consequences that could seriously harm America's small businesses.
Takes the internet, the American economy, and our society down a dark path.
Forces our small businesses to play tax collector for other states with absolutely no benefit to them.
Unleashes all the nation's tax collectors on small internet businesses.
How does this grow our economy and how does this create jobs?
This violates the basic principle that we began a decade ago: do no harm. Do no harm to the cause of innovation. Ensure that we have fairness, bricks and clicks together.
It requires America's businesses to track thousands of different tax codes in 7,500 different jurisdictions if they do online business out of state.
And I urge my colleagues to oppose it and its premature consideration by the full Senate.
I urge you to vote against this motion.
Okay, so that is the Democrats talking about why internet sales tax would be detrimental to the economy. But we're going to cut to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be into the third hour of the program, The Overdrive. You don't want to miss this. We'll be right back.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
Hello. We're back. All right, so when we last left, we were talking about internet sales tax. So this is what happens when the government starts to collude with corporations in order to rig the game, in order to and again, this is under the guise of saying that, oh, it's not fair, oh, boo-hoo, we have to pay sales tax and they don't. First of all, the internet is massive. So the government is trying to get their hands as much as they can. They want control. They want to be able to manipulate and control and regulate and all of this crap with the internet. They want it. They're salivating. I'm surprised they haven't gotten it yet. And they probably will. You know what? We'll probably all be paying sales tax on everything that we buy on the internet. Mark my words. That will probably pass because it is so much revenue. It's just one more source that they can bleed us dry. It's a death by 1,000 cuts that we face every single day when we leave the house. You pay a tax on the fuel that you drive in your car. You pay taxes on the car. You pay taxes on every single thing. Everything that you touch is taxed out the wazoo and regulated too. How can this not stifle innovation? How can this not prevent people from creating wealth? Again, do no harm was one of the points that I believe Ron Wyden, a Democrat, do no harm. How does this create jobs? Well, it doesn't. Anytime you tax something, you get less of it. Anytime that you incentivize or subsidize something, you get more of it. So, for example, in this scenario, they're taxing sales. So when you tax something, you will get less of it, which means there will be less wealth there. And again, even if they use this money in some way that is considered, philanthropic, I guess is the word. Even if they're using it in a way that is benefiting somebody somehow, if they're saying they're going to, teach kids to read, okay, that money could have been used in the economy. Money, when it's taken out of your pocket, that hurts the economy. When the government takes it out of your pocket to do something else with it, that means it's not in play in the economy. Now, they can use it to pump it back into the economy somewhere, but whatever they're pumping it back into is artificial. So it's them picking the winners and the losers. It's them. It's the government deciding where this money should be invested. And again, that is the most inefficient way that we can decide the winners and losers. Let the free market decide who wins and who loses. And you're going to see innovation and real progress. You want to see technological breakthroughs, get the government out of the way. One of the main reasons why computers had such a big boom is because there weren't a whole lot of regulations on computers back when people were making them. The government's slow to react. We start getting all these regulations on it, and I don't know if you've noticed, but computer technology in the past few decades, and again, I don't know if this is for sure or not. I'm just kind of speculating here, but I mean, computers haven't really had like giant leaps forward, as quick as you would have thought they would have. I would have thought that we'd have seen some massive differences in computers, in the tech. But I'm guessing it might have something to do with the regulations surrounding it now, because now it's an industry. It's regulated. Imagine what we'd have if the government wasn't in the way. And, people say, oh, well, we need the government. We need the government to be there because, without the government, we would never be able to have things like computers. Well, that was made by guys in a garage. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, those guys were making computers in their garage. So it wasn't the government who did that. And if we look at supply and demand, by the way, supply and demand, again, this is a free market tool, free market principles. It's the best way that you can control prices. The government thinks that you should control prices on everything. The government should be controlling interest rates and all this stuff to control and manipulate the market. This is all they're spinning plates, guys. That's all they're doing. They're just seeing how many plates they can spin at one time until it all comes crashing down. They want to play this game, but the best way to do it, best way to control the prices is let the free market control the prices. And what will happen is supply and demand. Supply and demand is it's the most basic economic principle, but once you really get it, it's the coolest one, I think. I love supply and demand because let's look at computers, for example, all right? People, and this applies for like healthcare and college and things like that. Okay, the government needs to subsidize your healthcare, subsidize your college costs. Okay, well the subsidization, the actual process of them dumping this money artificially into it, is not helping to make it better. All right, they may be picking a bad tech, a bad project, a bad company, and it may just not be something that the free market would have picked. Because the free market picks the best companies, and until they're become useless, until they're not efficient anymore, the free market will pick the best ones, and it will leave the ones that used to be the best ones but now are the worst, and go to the best ones. That's how it works. Okay, so the left likes to argue that we wouldn't be able to afford school, we wouldn't be able to afford health care if it wasn't for the government. If it wasn't for subsidies. It's the biggest crock I've ever heard. This is the biggest lie they've ever told. First of all, you can afford these things by allowing the free market to control it. It won't be for millionaires and billionaires only because somebody has to buy it. This company is releasing a product. So let me give you an example here, okay? Apple. The first computers that Apple was making, the home computers, were about in the $10,000 range per computer, okay? And it couldn't do much. It didn't have a lot of processing power, as you can imagine, but yet it cost a fortune. And they, over a period of time, I think it was about 5 to 10 years, something like that, they reduced the price significantly. And now, as you can see, I just bought a computer on eBay not too long ago for like $99. $99, I mean, it was just a tower. It wasn't like a monitor and stuff, but, that's all I needed. I already had the extra. Who doesn't have like an extra mouse and keyboard laying around and like an old monitor that you used to use or something like that? I've got all sorts of crap like that from old computers that I've kept, and I never throw away my mice and my keyboard. And I've got old monitors, and I've got my setup here with the show. I've got multiple monitors set up and stuff, so it's hooked up. But $99, compare that to a $10,000 computer. I'm sorry, and this computer is way more powerful. And again, as things innovate, you encourage competition by doing this because, first of all, if, let's say that the company decided there was no one else in the market in the computer industry and they're the first ones in, and the company's like, we're just going to continue to charge $10,000 a computer. They're selling, we'll just sell it for $10,000. We're making money, so forget it. We're not going to lower the price. We'll make this be like a super luxury item, like a yacht. You want a computer, you got to pay $10,000. Okay, well, what's going to happen is another computer company is going to start, and they're going to make computers, and now there will be competition in the market. And guess what? You charge $10,000, well, we'll charge $9,000. Oh, you charge $9,000, we'll charge $8,000. You charge $8,000, we'll charge $7,000. And then the prices go down and down and down. And as more people, more competition is flooded to this overpriced market, as more companies are creating these computers in order to make the money because, oh, wow, there's a killing to be made. There's so much money in this. As more people flood to this, the price goes down because the demand may have been growing or staying the same. It may depend. But whenever the demand for the product doesn't exceed the supply, whenever the supply exceeds the demand, that price is going to go way down. And what's going to happen is the marginal producers, people who aren't able to, they're not the huge companies, not the most efficient companies, not the companies that are doing the best job or have the best product, or the companies that don't have the best service, maybe customer service, maybe companies that have just a bad press image, something like that, they'll go away because they won't be able to compete. And then what happens? There's a equilibrium. It'll balance it out, and supply and demand. I mean, the price will continue to go up and down as the supply changes and as the demand changes. And this is something that the left tells us that it doesn't work with oil. All right? They say supply and demand, the rules of supply and demand do not work with oil. It's all about speculation, blah, 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 blah. But look what's going on with the oil prices right now. They're going up and down, up and down, up and down. And the reason why is because OPEC is pumping oil. OPEC is pumping a lot of oil in an effort to put our fracking industry out of business. American fracking, it's a danger to them. It's a threat. So they want to destroy it. And how they did that is by producing a crap load of oil. They're producing more oil than they have in the past. So, because of that, the price goes down. The supply went up, which means that the demand is going to be lower than what the supply is. Therefore, they lower the price. That's how it works. Supply and demand. It's one of the funnest ones. So let's apply this to college. Okay. If nobody can afford, if nobody can afford to go to college at $50,000 a year, if no one can afford it but the super rich, they will obviously, some of these colleges will go out of business, or they'll have to lower their prices in order to get people to attend. And they'll have to be more cost effective as well, because they'll have to find ways to really streamline and get the best bang out of their buck. So they'll be more efficient. They'll be cheaper, and what will happen is the really super efficient companies that are able to make money while spending less money, they'll be able to reduce their prices to a point where they're being more competitive against the companies that are just have ridiculous prices, against these college companies that have, again, college companies. That's essentially what they are, unless they're public. And I don't think we should have public colleges. That's just my opinion. I don't think we should be paying for education. Everybody should be, throwing all of our money into a bin to educate people. I don't believe in collective education. I think education should be private. It's a private matter. It's your mind. Why would you want the government to be in control of what you learn? And especially, it behooves them to keep you stupid, especially about the Constitution, that very document that determines their own power, that is what gave them their power, their authority to begin with, and limits them. Which is why, if you're like me, you probably didn't learn very much about the Constitution in high school. Why would you? Why would they want to teach you that? So, again, in the free market, there would be competition. There would be increased competition in colleges, to lower their prices to a more affordable rate. Exactly what happened with the Apple computer, and people would be able to actually afford college. College prices would have to go down. That's why you can see, if you look at the level of inflation when compared to college tuition going up, it is astronomically higher. College tuition is astronomically higher than the cost of inflation, when scaled to inflation. It's been going up, I think it's like hundreds of percentages, maybe 1,000%, maybe 2,000%. I can't remember exactly right now, but astronomically higher than the cost of inflation. So there's no reason. The only explanation is because it happened to be going up around the same time that we started publicly funding these colleges. And it's pretty obvious when you subsidize something, all right, whatever you're subsidizing, you're paying with someone else's money, all right? And if these colleges know that they can now charge you more money, you as an individual more money, because now you can afford more money because the government's giving you the money to pay for it, they know that they can charge you more. This is why I paid like $170-something for one of my books in school. It's just a book. It's a paperback book. It probably cost a couple of dollars to print, tops. What justification do you have? Oh, well, we have to have an updated version every so often. Well, again, it seems pretty inefficient. I don't think the free market would prop this idea up. I think this is something that's being artificially propped up here, gang. We have what's called the internet now, guys. This is the thing. It's free market, the solution to everything. I mean, honestly, it's the solution to everything. Everything is free market. And we have so very little bit of it left. I mean, the free market in and of itself, anytime anybody blames the free market on anything, by the way, guys, you should just laugh at them. pity them, pity that person, because they don't know what they're talking about. Anytime somebody says, "Oh, well, the free market's why we're in the problem that we're in," no, you've just expressed how little you actually understand about the free market. Now, I'm not trying to say I'm a free market elitist and I know everything there is. I'm learning, and the fact that I know that the free market has nothing to do with what we're doing right now, and how little of a free market we have left, that says a lot. I know that now, and I'm still learning. I'm still in the learning process. I'm trying to really wrap my head around this topic. And I understand that, when you manipulate the market, when you have control of the money supply, when you're able to print money, and you're also able to control interest rates, you've essentially eliminated most of the free market, because the free market is dependent on these two things. And if you can artificially change these around in order to do what you want, like print money, they want to print money. The government wants to print money because they want to be able to buy you with the money. They want to be able to print the money so that they can buy you with it with free crap. And because they do that, they have to be able to control the interest rates, because otherwise they would screw up their interest rates. So they have to have that. So again, it's a rigged system. And then the fact that we're talking about increasing government with all these regulations in order to make it fair, in order to make look, the laws, the regulations, all of this crap, it's not making it fairer. All right, minimum wage isn't helping you. It hurts you. It's not good for small businesses. It creates unemployment. Not to mention just the sheer the civil rights violation, your liberty of being able to choose what to work for. And all the regulations that are inside the environmental movement. In my opinion, and by the way, let's just point out here, the environmental movement has killed people. Now, no, they're not going down and shooting people down, although some of them are the environmental terrorists. Those guys are like PETA and stuff like that. I'm sure PETA has had crap like that. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't call them environmental terrorists. I take that back. I don't know of any specific instance where PETA has killed anyone. I do know of instances where PETA has killed animals, though, oddly enough. There's people for the ethical treatment of animals. But, there are people who take this environmental side to a radical end, and they go overboard with it, and they start to kill people physically. But that's not what I'm talking about. The environmental movement, you can blame what's going on in the Middle East right now on the environmental movement. On global warming, climate change, all that other stuff, weather weirding, all that stuff. You can blame it on those people, because those are the same people that prevented us from getting the Keystone XL pipeline, the same people that are preventing us from pumping our own oil and becoming energy independent, which forces us to go over to the Middle East and forces us to be involved in these conflicts in order to secure these resources. So yes, the environmentalists are killing people right now. They're killing people. The environmentalists essentially created ISIS because they caused us to get there, and we created ISIS. So every single thing about that, every single person that ISIS kills, that is a death that you can attribute to the environmental movement. When you think about it like that, it's pretty crazy. So we really have to become energy independent. We have to. We got to get out of there. I mean, the amount of deaths in the Iraq war, Afghanistan war, all of this is because of oil. And we have oil. We have an out. We have a way out. We don't have to get drugged into a conflict in the Middle East again. We don't have to be put into a proxy war against Russia. Who cares if Assad is killing his people? It sucks. I know. I know that sucks. It's not our responsibility. It's not our responsibility. We can protect our allies, we can protect ourselves, but we can't protect everybody. If we're looking at this like a life raft, which I think that we should look at America kind of like a life raft. If you're on the Titanic and you're trying to get into the life raft, there are limits to what you can hold. There are limits to how many people you can fit in a life raft. And if you exceed those limits, you all sink with the ship. In the situation of the Titanic, they had limited number of life rafts. They didn't have enough life rafts for the amount of people in the ship. We can be considered a life raft. America, we're a life raft. We have the ability to protect our friends and ourselves. We have the ability, and we do take in 1 million immigrants every year. 1 million immigrants legally through our legal immigration system. Which, it's slow. It takes about 10 years sometimes for people to get in, become legal citizens. It's very costly too. It costs a lot of money. But we take in 1 million people a year into this life raft, and we're supposed to feel bad. Our president is trying to convince us that we're terrible people. And we're being racist because we don't want to take in people into the life raft, which has limited space and resources, that we can't tell if they're friend or foe. As far as going around the rest of the world and protecting everyone else, who can we fit into the life raft? We have a limited supply. We have limited resources. What is worth it, first of all, for us to protect? Who can we fit into the life raft? Who are our potential? You have to come up with a list. Who of our potential friends that we can help, that we can help protect? Who are we willing to get involved with, and who is willing to get involved with us? We'll trade with anybody as long as you're not an enemy. As long as you're actively not trying to do harm to Americans. You don't have Americans held prisoner or something like that. We shouldn't even go to bargaining tables with people who have American prisoners hostage until they release them. Our president decided to make a nuclear deal with Iran and basically say that Iran can do whatever they want when it comes to nuclear weapons now. So, and we still got Americans over there in their custody. Are we getting them back? I don't think so. I don't think we're getting them back anytime soon. And I don't think this president truly cares. I really don't. So, okay, let's change up the topic here. I want to cover Obamacare. It's our last topic of the day. Obamacare's prices, their rates may be raising next year. Here, this is an article on CNBC.com. Obamacare's double-digit price hikes for next year. Obamacare's many double-digit price hikes for next year. This is by Dan Mangan. Insurers have asked for double-digit rate increases for nearly 1 out of every 3 Obamacare plans that will be sold on healthcare.gov for 2016 coverage, according to a new analysis. In a 3-state in 3 states, Delaware, South Dakota, and West Virginia, every plan sold on healthcare.gov is asking for 10% more in hikes in the prices of their premiums for next year. And let's see here. Let me go through. Existing Obamacare customers in 6 other states that on that federally run marketplace, which serves 2/3 of the United States, could also be in for a rude awakening come November when open enrollment resumes. And in those other 6 states, a majority of plans are requesting double-digit hikes, ranging from Montana, where 86% of the plans have asked for such increases, down to North Dakota, where 67% of the plans are doing so. The natural reaction for those customers is they're going to be surprised, said Sam Gibbs, executive director of AgileHealthInsurance.com. In some of these states, there's going to be a strong reaction to it, said Gibbs. Analysis found that 7% of Obamacare plans sold on healthcare.gov are asking for rate hikes of at least 30%, while 14% of such plans are asking for increases at least 20%. To be sure, most plans are not asking for double-digit increases. And because and because nearly 9 in 10 Obamacare exchange customers receive federal financial assistance to help pay their monthly premiums, even if customers re-enroll in a plan with double-digit price hikes. To hit the hit to their own wallet will not seem as drastic as if they're paying the full price. So, first of all, that's bull, because they're paying it somewhere. You're paying taxes. It's not like you're not paying for this, or someone isn't. This isn't free. Someone's paying for this. So that means that all of us are going to have to pay more money in taxes to subsidize more costs, in addition to the doubling and tripling of the premiums that already occurred when Obamacare took effect. We were told that this wouldn't happen. We're told that, you're actually going to save money. You're going to save money. Well, no, you're not. The people who are being subsidized are going to save money, but everyone else who's on getting taxed and paying for this, we're all going to have to pay for it, either through our premiums, which doubled and tripled if you're not getting subsidies, or you're going to have to pay the penalty. And that penalty increases every year. So every time that you have to pay a penalty on your taxes when you didn't have health insurance, it's going to raise every year. People are going to start feeling this. I mean, I know so many people that have had to drop their health insurance. They said, I can't afford this. And, you ask them, what happens if you get sick? Well, I'm not sick now. If I do get sick, I'll just get insurance then. And, they have to take me. It's open enrollment. So what happens is you have all the healthy people. This is how insurance works, gang, is that the healthy people are paying for the sick people. That's the way it works. You can't have just sick people on the plan and everybody's saving money. It's not the way it works. And I get the idea where you don't want sick people denied coverage for pre-existing conditions. I get it. But this ain't the way. This ain't the way to do it. The way to do it is to get insured early. As early as you can, and that way you're hedging your bets. They can't drop you once you are already on the policy. That's the way it is already like that. So anyway, the point is that Obamacare is going to end up crumbling under its own weight. Again, we're going to be forced to pay more because there's more tax burden, because things aren't working out how they say. It's going to cost more money. It's not going to be cheaper. So they're going to have to artificially prop this up with more of our dollars. And it's not going to have good services, and they're going to try to talk us into a single payer where the government provides all your health care service, and all you have to do is look at the VA. That's a single payer system, everyone. Is the VA working out? Oh, no. Our vets are being put on waiting lists and dying while they're on the waiting list. It's not really working out too well. When you got to go to the government to get all of your stuff, when you centralize it, again, when you centralize something, it gets worse. It's not going to be better. It's going to be worse. It makes it also harder for you to have an impact. How do you answer that? Again, the government, they don't care about you. The only thing that they do that in terms of services, the only thing that they care about is providing you with services and doing the least amount that they have to do, and trying not to have any negative consequences from that. Basically, all they care about is the negative consequences. So if there are no negative consequences, for example, like a company, all right? A company, if it was just one company that's providing the health care, all right, and you didn't like that company's service, you can go to another service. But if the government is providing all the health care, and the government screws you over like the government always screws you over, where do you go? What are you going to do? You can't. You're going to boycott you can't. They'll take your money anyway. They'll tax you. You have no choices. You've limited all of your options. You've eliminated competition, and you've artificially propped something up. That's what's going to happen here. This plan will either crumble, or they'll dig in further and try to turn it into a single payer system and make it so the government is the only option. Whereas before, you could have at least shopped around. Oh, this company's got a bad reputation. Well, maybe I'll go somewhere else. But the government will only do what they have to do in order to not have any repercussions. So if they think they can screw you over and walk all over you, they will. If they don't think there any consequences will happen, and you'll have to make them pay in order to get their attention. You'll have to organize a freaking revolt, essentially, in order to get them to pay attention to you, especially if this is national. You got to get their attention nationally. It's not like they're in your community. You have to try to attract the attention of some bureaucrat in D.C. Yeah, this is going to end bad. Really badly. But, again, this is why I am hopeful, because their ideas are so terrible. They eventually crumble under their own weight, and all it's going to take is for us, people who are paying the bills, to shrug everyone off our shoulders, say, no, I'm not going to pay for you anymore. And the more that they come up with programs like this, and the more that we see it, and the more that we're slapped across the face, the more likely that is to happen. So, anyway, that's our show today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly did. And again, if you guys would, I would greatly appreciate it. If you made it this far into the program, you are the tip of the spear. You are awesome, and thank you so much. The biggest thing that I would love it for you to do, if you made it this far, is to share the program. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it on social media. You know, I would really appreciate it. Talk about it. Say, hey, friend of mine who I know, that I know that you're into politics. I know you're a libertarian, or you're conservative, or you like guns, or something along those lines. Say, hey, I think you'll really like this show, if you yourself really like this show. That would be really awesome if you guys would do that, because that would be how we grow the show. And just to give you, the demographic, like 18 to 45, 55-year-old men, basically, according to my YouTube demographics. That's like most of what we get is those kind of guys. So 18 to 45 pretty much is men is usually, but we have female listeners in the Mac Pack, and I know you're out there, by the way. I know you're out there. So anyway, please feel free to share the program. I certainly appreciate it. And you can follow us on Spreaker as well. That's another big way you can help us. Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can write us a review on iTunes. That means a lot as well. And, but yeah, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks so much, MacPack, for joining us week after week. We broadcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, that is every Sunday. You can check us out on our hub, OnTheMoveShow.com. Follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can like us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can follow us on Twitter at Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can subscribe to us on YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow as well. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, and get on the move.